So you've already seen my top 5 tier 1 and tier 2 supplements, and you're thinking, yeah, Quinn, I was already taking those. Well, this one is for you because we're going over my top 5 lesser known supplements for longevity and performance. The ones I feel like are not getting enough attention despite some serious data. And as always, we're covering the scientific benefits, the optimal dose, the optimal form, timing, and my unsponsored brand recommendations. A couple of these are newer, and a couple of these are just criminally underrated despite having a ton of human data showing benefits such as lowering cardiovascular disease risk, improving cognitive performance, and maybe even improving your strength and endurance. Let's jump in. Coming in at number 5 is pyrroloquinoline-quinone, or PQQ. And PQQ is a redox cofactor, meaning that it helps support the enzymes that work on energy production and protection from oxidative stress. But its most unique mechanism is its ability to stimulate mitochondrial biogenesis through the PGC1 alpha pathway, a pathway that not only improves mitochondrial efficiency, but can even create new mitochondria. And PQQ is naturally created by bacteria and also found in fruits and vegetables, but its direct supplementation in humans has just more recently started to be studied. So while we don't have a ton of human data, the human data we do have, plus the preclinical data, is super promising. For instance, the number one effect of PQQ is its ability to improve cognitive performance. And this is largely due to its ability to improve mitochondrial efficiency in the brain and through increasing NGF, or nerve growth factor, which improves neuronal growth and increases synaptic plasticity. Through these mechanisms, it's been shown to improve executive function, working memory, and reaction time, along with pretty much every other cognitive performance measure that is tested with the supplementation of PQQ. And not only that, but it's also been shown to improve all these cognitive performance markers in both young and older individuals. Similarly, PQQ has also been studied in neurodegenerative diseases such as Parkinson's and Alzheimer's due to that antioxidant potential. And while there's not a ton of human data on this yet, the preclinical studies are pretty promising for this effect. And PQQ has also been studied in humans for decreasing fatigue. Again, probably due to that mitochondrial biogenesis, PQQ has been shown to decrease most markers of fatigue when tested in human trials. And again, due to both mitochondrial biogenesis and its antioxidant potential, PQQ has been shown in model organisms to improve many markers of metabolic syndromes, such as fatty liver disease, insulin resistance, and obesity. And there was even one study in humans noting that PQQ decreased LDL, or that bad cholesterol, by about 9 points. And again, due to that antioxidant property and its ability to stimulate mitochondrial biogenesis, PQQ has also been studied in model organisms for longevity promotion. And it's been shown in these organisms to even increase their lifespan. So while this can't be directly translated to humans, this is a super promising effect for PQQ. Because there are not a ton of human studies, it's pretty straightforward when it comes to form, dosing, and timing. For form, you really want to go with BioPQQ. It's easily the most studied in the human trials, and it's a super high quality purified form of PQQ. For dosing, again, it's pretty consistent so far in the human studies at 20 milligrams per day. Almost every human study that shows a positive effect has used this dosing, so I would definitely go with 20 milligrams per day on PQQ. And for timing, they normally just use PQQ once a day in the studies, and it's taken with food to help slightly increase absorption. And generally, I would take it in the morning due to its ability to potentially increase energy and decrease fatigue throughout the day. And again, for brands, and none of the brands in this video are sponsored at all, just my honest recommendations. For PQQ, I like to go with ones that are using that BioPQQ form. And there's honestly not a lot of brands that use that form in isolation without any other extra supplements mixed in. One that does is Doctor's Best, which is a pretty good company with transparent third-party testing, and they have those 20 milligram PQQ capsules for you to take one in the morning. Coming in at number 4 is Bergamot. And Bergamot supplements are derived from the bergamot orange, or Citrus bergamia, which is mainly grown in Calabria, Italy. Bergamot has a very, very unique blend of polyphenols, or plant antioxidants and anti-inflammatories, which give it its amazing effects, specifically really amazing effects on the cardiovascular system. In regards to polyphenols, it has these flavonoids, and specifically 2 of these are unique to bergamot alone, and they have a statin-like effect, which essentially allows them to inhibit the enzyme HMG-CoA reductase and very much lower LDL, or that bad cholesterol. Specifically, studies have shown that it has the ability to lower LDL by anywhere from 8 to 41%, which is a massive lowering of LDL for a supplement. Studies have also shown its ability to lower triglycerides anywhere from 12 to 40%, which again is a massive lowering. And due to these antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties of the polyphenols in bergamot, as well as their ability to stimulate AMPK, bergamot has been shown in studies to decrease markers of metabolic syndrome, specifically decreasing markers of insulin resistance by 12% and slightly decreasing body weight. It's also been shown to decrease measures of inflammation within the body, specifically lowering markers such as CRP by about 18%. And due to all these previous mechanisms, it's very impressively been shown to decrease atherosclerotic plaque. Specifically, it decreased a measure of this plaque, carotid intima media thickness, or CIMT, from 1.2 to 0.9 millimeters in studies, which is, again, very significant. And while there are no human studies on this, it has been shown in preclinical studies that bergamot may have an anti-cancer effect as well. But the effects don't just stop with all these longevity-promoting effects. We also get some performance effects as well. Due to its antioxidant ability, which can increase nitric oxide, bergamot has also been shown in studies to even improve VO2 max and act synergistically with citrulline. When it comes to forms of bergamot, there are many. There's the juice, there's the essential oil, there's extracts, and then specifically there is the polyphenolic fraction, which is a specific extract of bergamot which contains the highest amount of polyphenols. And this is the one you want because all of those polyphenols give bergamot all of those positive effects that we just talked about. And specifically, you want something that's labeled as the bergamot polyphenolic fraction, or BPF. This has greater than or equal to 38% polyphenols, which give it a ton of antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties to give it all its positive effects. Specifically, I love bergamonte. It is a specific type of BPF, and it's created by HP Ingredients and is the most tested specific form of BPF. It has 12 human clinical studies backing it up, so this is the way I'm going for the form of bergamot. However, if you find another trademarked, highly tested form of bergamot polyphenolic fraction that has a proven greater than or equal to 38% polyphenol content, then that's a good way to go as well. For dosing, most studies use about 500 milligrams to 1,000 milligrams of that BPF. And in the studies for cholesterol, they definitely note that 1,000 milligrams is much more efficacious than 500 milligrams. However, there are not really any studies demonstrating that anything greater than 1,000 milligrams is better than just 1,000 milligrams alone. So I'm definitely sticking with 1,000 milligrams a day of that BPF. Timing-wise, most studies use once-a-day dosing, so it's probably sufficient to just do that. However, it's not wrong to split it up 2 times throughout the day. That being said, it definitely is beneficial to take this one on an empty stomach, as it'll allow the polyphenols to be absorbed without competing against other nutrients. So I generally just recommend taking all 1,000 milligrams prior to your breakfast. For brands, I like NHR Science's Bergamonte. I chose this one because it's a good price for, again, that heavily tested Bergamonte, that specific form of bergamot polyphenolic fraction. However, if you find another brand that contains a well-tested, high polyphenolic content bergamot, then I say go for it. Coming in at number 3 is astaxanthin. And astaxanthin is a carotenoid or a pigment most commonly produced by microalgae. It has a very characteristic reddish orange hue, and its main mechanism is its insane antioxidant ability. In studies, it has been shown to be 6,000 times more powerful as an antioxidant than vitamin C. And because of this effect, astaxanthin has been studied more and more recently in humans. Specifically, it has been shown to mildly decrease a bunch of markers of cardiovascular disease risk. For instance, it has been shown to decrease LDL by 12 points, decrease triglyceride by 35 points, decrease fasting blood sugar by 15%, and decrease systolic blood pressure by about 5 points. Furthermore, astaxanthin has also been studied in humans for skin health, and this is probably its most studied effect, actually. It's been proven more times than not to decrease skin wrinkles, improve skin texture and hydration, and even protect against UV-induced skin damage, which is super impressive for an oral supplement. Astaxanthin has also been studied pretty extensively in humans for eye health. Specifically, it's been shown to decrease markers of eye strain and also been shown to help prevent and treat diseases such as macular degeneration, cataracts, amongst other eye diseases. Astaxanthin has also been studied in cognitive performance, and this is not as proven as the previous effects, but more times than not, astaxanthin has been shown to improve markers of working memory and reaction time. And similarly, astaxanthin has also been studied in neurodegenerative diseases. Again, this one is much less proven than the previous effects, but its antioxidant nature and the preclinical studies point to its potential as a preventative measure for Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's. And finally, from a longevity perspective, astaxanthin has also been studied in model organisms for its ability to prolong life. Specifically, it was shown in a study on mice to prolong lifespan by about 12%, which is super substantial in mice. And while we can't directly translate that data to humans yet, it does show the importance of antioxidant potential in potentially prolonging life. And finally, astaxanthin has also been studied in athletic performance. And while we need more studies to really prove this effect, early studies do point to the fact that astaxanthin could be pretty beneficial for endurance performance specifically, showing that it has increased lactate clearance and even decreased time to completion of an event. To get all these positive effects though, the form of astaxanthin is super important to talk about because astaxanthin is a very fat-soluble molecule, meaning it's very difficult to absorb. So the first major consideration when selecting a form of astaxanthin is we need to make sure that it is naturally produced from the microalgae Haematococcus pluvialis. This form contains the specific bioactive isomer or the specific molecular arrangement of astaxanthin that is proven to have all these positive antioxidant effects. It's also the form that is always studied in human trials, so you really do not want a synthetic form of astaxanthin. Then from there, it's all about selecting a formulation that will actually allow you to absorb that correct isomer. And for this, the most studied form is Astaril. It's in oil-based soft gels that allow it to be absorbed due to that extra fat, and it's very highly studied. It's the most studied form of astaxanthin, so really this is the one I'm going with. That being said, there are more up-and-coming forms of astaxanthin that use different fat emulsion technologies to even further improve absorption of astaxanthin. For instance, there's one known as BioPure from the company AX3, which has now been more and more studied clinically. However, still not as studied as Astaril. According to them, their formulation is actually better absorbed than the standard astaxanthin or Astaril. However, this is not a peer-reviewed study, so it's hard to know if that's actually correct data. But all that being said, to me, you can't really go wrong with either of these forms or any form that uses a good fat emulsion-based technology with a natural form of astaxanthin. For dosing, that's also kind of difficult to determine as many studies use different formulations of astaxanthin, and dosing is pretty varied in the studies. That being said, in the studies, generally astaxanthin is used at either 2 to 20 milligrams. And when I look at the studies, the most common dosing that is used and proven to be safe and efficacious is 12 milligrams. There's not a ton of studies comparing doses, but the few that do show that 12 milligrams is better than 6 milligrams most of the time. And there's not really studies that demonstrate that anything greater than 12 milligrams is better than 12 milligrams alone. So I'm sticking with 12 milligrams per day of that natural astaxanthin. For timing, most studies do use 1 time per day. However, some studies do note that astaxanthin is better absorbed in smaller doses due to a saturation effect. And other studies do actually use 2 times a day dosing on astaxanthin, so 6 milligrams 2 times a day. So I do think it's probably ideal to do it 2 times per day, although doing it 1 time per day is definitely not wrong. However, one thing to make sure you are doing is making sure you're taking astaxanthin with a fatty meal, because that fat is really going to help absorption, and without it, you're probably not going to absorb near as much. And finally, for brands, if you're sticking with the Astaril formulation as I am, I like Nature's Lab here. It's a great third-party tested company with a GMP certified lab, and they use that Astaril formulation. They also have 6 milligram soft gels, so you can split that up into 2 times per day, which I really love. However, if you want the more up-and-comer that could be more readily absorbed than Astaril, then BioPure from AX3 is a great option. However, they do only have 12 milligram soft gels, so you just have to take that 1 time per day. Coming in at number 2 is Rhodiola rosea. And Rhodiola comes from a plant known as golden root found in higher altitude climates, and it's most commonly used as an adaptogen, or an herb that basically allows us to adapt better to stressors and regulate our cortisol response. Compared to ashwagandha, another adaptogen, Rhodiola is much lesser known, but it's definitely my second favorite adaptogen just behind ashwagandha due to some pretty impressive studies. First off, due to its ability to, again, regulate cortisol response, as well as modulate neurotransmitters, Rhodiola has been found pretty consistently to decrease markers of subjective stress. Other studies also demonstrate Rhodiola's ability to decrease subjective fatigue scores. This is likely due to not only its adaptogenic properties, but also due to its ability to stimulate mitochondrial ATP production. Furthermore, Rhodiola has also been shown to improve markers of mental and cognitive performance, such as short-term memory, markers of learning, and reaction time, all due to these aforementioned mechanisms. And finally, through all these mechanisms and through its ability to act as an antioxidant to decrease muscle damage, Rhodiola has also been shown to improve physical performance. And while there is less consistent data as all these previous effects, the data definitely leans positive for Rhodiola's effect on athletic performance. Specifically, Rhodiola has the most studies on improving endurance performance, with studies demonstrating that it can improve VO2 max by about 2.5 and improve time to exhaustion by about 0.5 minutes. And while there are less consistent studies on Rhodiola's effect on strength and power, I again still think the data leans positive for its ability to mildly improve markers of strength such as bench press or squat. In regards to the form of Rhodiola to get these positive effects, it's really important to get a form that has a tested, stated amount of the most active compounds of Rhodiola, those active compounds being rosavins and solidrosides. Specifically in the studies, the concentrations that are used of these active compounds are 1% solidrosides and 3% rosavins. These are the exact concentrations used in the commonly tested extract SHR5. So I'm looking for a Rhodiola form that has this exact amount of solidrosides and rosavins. For dosing, Rhodiola is pretty varied in the studies. The dosing is anywhere between 100 milligrams per day all the way up to 2,000 milligrams per day, although this higher dosing is mostly just used in strength and power studies over the short term. So there is no known correct dose. However, after reading most of the studies, I think that the best dose for Rhodiola that is proven to be safe and efficacious is 400 milligrams per day. And this is definitely the most commonly studied dose for markers of fatigue, stress, and mental performance. And while there are not a lot of studies comparing different dosings of Rhodiola, the ones that do pretty much note that dosing around 400 milligrams is not inferior at all to doses closer to 6, 7, or 800 milligrams. And this 400 milligram dose would still be beneficial for endurance exercise as well, as the studies that look at this do note that when it comes to Rhodiola, anywhere above 200 milligrams 60 minutes prior to exercise will benefit you when it comes to endurance performance. For strength and power metrics, on the other hand, most of the studies do use a really high dose. However, this is not really studied in the long term, and there are not studies that look at strength and power metrics while using lower doses. So it's really hard to determine if a higher dose is actually needed to get those positive effects on strength and power performance. So to me, I'm sticking with about 400 milligrams per day of Rhodiola because the strength and power metrics are the least studied effect anyways, and you might still get the effect at the lower dose. It's just really not studied yet for that specific metric. However, for all other metrics for Rhodiola, 400 milligrams is definitely your proven way to go. For timing, most studies use Rhodiola 2 times per day. This is due to a relatively short half-life, so taking it 2 times per day will give you higher plasma concentrations steadily throughout the day. And ideally, you would take one of these doses 60 minutes prior to exercise. And definitely, if you're performing endurance exercise, again, this is where Rhodiola has the most effect. And finally, for brands, my favorite go-to here is Pure Encapsulations. They are a great clinical grade, high quality brand, and they have Rhodiola in the correct concentrations of those active ingredients at 100 milligrams per capsule. So for me, I take 2 capsules of those 2 times per day, with one of those being 60 minutes prior to exercise. And coming in at number 1 is aged garlic extract. And aged garlic extract is different from other garlic supplements as it is soaked in either a water or ethanol solution for 10 to 20 months to convert these harsh sulfur compounds into more stable bioactive components. This then allows for a more consistent, standardized extract, which then can be used in many human studies to provide some pretty significant effects. Specifically, aged garlic extract has been shown to have a ton of anti-inflammatory properties due to increasing your own body's antioxidant defense mechanisms, as well as directly inhibiting NF-kappa B. Through these mechanisms, it has been shown very consistently in studies to lower inflammatory markers such as IL-6. And furthermore, due to these antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects, aged garlic extract has also been shown to very impressively lower blood pressure. This effect is also partly driven by its ability to improve nitric oxide production as well. But through these mechanisms, aged garlic extract has been shown to decrease systolic blood pressure by anywhere from 8 to 10 millimeters of mercury, which is a huge effect for a supplement. And the cardiovascular help just keeps on coming with aged garlic extract. It's also been shown to mildly lower LDL through decreasing cholesterol synthesis and increasing cholesterol excretion. Specifically, it's been shown to lower LDL by about 6 to 10%. And probably most impressively, aged garlic extract has also been shown to reduce progression of atherosclerotic plaque. In human studies, it has been shown to lower low attenuation plaque, which is that plaque that's prone to rupture, And in other studies, it's been shown to reduce the progression of the coronary artery calcium score, which is just crazy for a supplement. And finally, through these antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects, as well as through its ability to modulate the immune system, aged garlic extract has also been studied for anti-cancer effects as well. This is mostly in animal studies, but in these studies, they show a lower incidence of cancer when aged garlic extract is used. So again, hard to directly translate this to humans yet, but super promising use for aged garlic extract. For the form of aged garlic extract to get all these crazy effects, you want something that is high in S-allylcysteine, or SAC, the most active component of aged garlic extract. And to get something high in SAC, I really recommend sticking with the kyolic form of aged garlic extract. It is hands down the most studied form of aged garlic extract in the studies and is a high purity standardized formulation of aged garlic extract. For dosing, the studies use anywhere from 1,200 to 3,600 milligrams of aged garlic extract, standardized to 1.2 to 3.6 milligrams of SAC. However, from my read on the studies, the most common efficacious dose is 2,400 milligrams of aged garlic extract or 2.4 milligrams of SAC. This was what was used in the studies on atherosclerosis, which again is a super impressive effect. So I'm sticking with 2,400 milligrams of aged garlic extract per day. For timing, ideally you would spread this out 2 times throughout the day. Reason being is that aged garlic extract can be fermentable by gut bacteria. So if you load up a bunch of that aged garlic extract in one dose, you may have some gut symptoms. And the second reason being that SAC's half-life is only about 10 hours. So if you spread your aged garlic extract dosing 2 times throughout the day, you'll have pretty stable levels throughout the entire 24-hour period. And this is exactly how the dosing is done in the studies as well. And ideally, I would take both of these doses with food, as 1, it will lower your risk of having gut symptoms, and 2, it will slightly help with absorption. And finally, for brand, I really recommend sticking with the kyolic garlic from Wakunaga here. They are the original creators of the kyolic formulation of aged garlic extract, and they have very high quality products. They do have a lot of different formulations of kyolic. I recommend going with the kyolic reserve, or formula 200, as it has a very concentrated amount of aged garlic extract in each capsule. Specifically, you're going to get 1,200 milligrams of aged garlic extract in only 2 capsules. What I then recommend doing is taking 2 capsules in the morning and 2 capsules at night with food, as we talked about. So that is the top 5 unheard of supplements. Subscribe for more videos now coming weekly, and check out this playlist for more supplements to up-level your longevity and performance.